The rights of the monk are held by Christ for the other life. Geronda. What is meant by rights? The concept of rights is worldly reasoning. The more worldly the person, the more rights he thinks he should have. The more spiritual the person, the fewer rights he thinks he deserves. Especially the monk who only has responsibilities, he has no rights to do anything. What I mean to say is that he should have no demands from anyone for anything. For a monk who has renounced everything for the love of Christ, to seek rights is altogether wrong. It is an insult to Christ to monasticism. Worldly people as such have many rights. The rights of the monk and those of a spiritual person are held by Christ for the other life. Today the concept of rights appears in virtually all young people, including young monks. Some young monks do not understand why they became monks and what monasticism is all about. And this is why they have a worldly spirit, a strange logic, a sort of human righteousness from every point of view. This human righteousness started with the European spirit and has entered even into monasticism. In monasticism nowadays, one often encounters this spirit. I don't harm others, and I don't want others to harm me. I am not unjust, I am fair. Others say, I've done my duty, I've helped in this or that way, and now I am done, I am fair. The other work isn't mine, I am off. I am going to my cell to do spiritual things. They don't consider whether the other person is sick or has a headache and cannot work, or works less because he has kept to vigil and is more tired. Or they may say, this portion of food is mine, I am entitled to it, without examining whether the other person is weak or if he needs additional nourishment. Though in a spiritual place these monks end up having a worldly mentality and become consistently worldly. Do you know what it's like to see spiritual people with a worldly approach to life? I have observed the following in a considerable number of monks. The fasting, the praying, the services, the assigned course and duties, they do it all. They wear their monastic habit, they follow their monastic rule, but their approach, instead of being spiritual, is worldly because they seek to avoid being reprimanded, avoid being wronged. That is to say, they deal with things according to human righteousness, and sometimes they do not even attain that. How can you communicate with them on a spiritual level? They regulate their life in such a way that Christ will be sure to know how much they deserve in the future. Although in fact Christ is fully aware of everyone and knows how much one is wronged, how much he sacrifices and will reward them accordingly, the worldly monks want to put their score straight on their own. I am exasperated with the present mentality that I see amongst some young monks. A human righteousness is prevalent. How can human righteousness fit into the spiritual life? Even in the worldly life, one cannot get by only with human righteousness. How much more in the spiritual? When I was in the Konobirik monastery, everyone was trying to make some sacrifice, at work, at the meals, in all aspects of life. There was this spirit. Each person thought of the other first, and so they lived in paradise. If one were in the refectory, for example, he would try to eat less to leave more food for the other monk. Even if he himself was weak and needy, he did not take this into account. Nor did he examine what the other person was. He made a sacrifice. Nor did he allow himself to reason, it will be better for him if he eats more. From the moment a monk is concerned about not being wronged, about not being overly tired, about not working too much. It is as if he does not believe that God exists or that there is another life, a future judgment and divine reward. Even if one works a little more than usual, it will not be in vain. Only the animals labor in vain, and yet these poor animals, although they suffer because of us, because the transgression of Adam and Eve caused all of nature to groan together with us, nevertheless continue to sacrifice themselves for us. It is terrible. You see what wild animals endure when wounded by hunters. They are crippled with broken legs and unable to run, becoming prey to other larger animals without any reward. A person who does not understand these things is not a human being. This is why God gave a man a brain with which to think and to find his way. Now, I am not saying that one should kill himself with laborious work, but he should work with philorimo. In other words, Geronda, you want our heart to leap and pound with joy from trying to bring peace and comfort to others. Yes, because when you try to bring peace and comfort to others and abandon yourself into the hands of God, you do not become tired. However, if you do tire and tell yourself that you became tired in helping others, well then, the spiritual benefit is gone. You have lost it. What will Christ give you in return for your misery, you ask? He will give you a slap in the face. Pay attention to this as much as you can. This is the spiritual work you must do. Otherwise, even the ascetic efforts you undertake will not benefit you. Because if one does not do the spiritual work right, he will be working on a different frequency from God. And then everything will be in vain. The prostrations, the fasting, everything. I don't mean that these things shouldn't be done, but rather that one shouldn't think that merely by doing them he is all right.